This is Rise of the Tomb Raider, well, Definitive Edition, I suppose, on the PlayStation platform. This is Lara Croft's second adventure and the second part of generally her Survivor trilogy, where she sets out to kind of find out more details about her father and the organization known as Trinity. She's joined by Jonah. And yes, we are playing on PS5, so we have a few different options that are inherited from the PS4 Pro release. No HDR though, a little bit disappointing in that regard. But yeah, right now we're seeing the 4K resolution option, so that's 4K 30 FPS. Then there's 1080 60, and then there's like I think a 1080 30, but with like enhanced visual options. So we're going to be showing that off as soon as we get to the actual gameplay portion of the experience. So for this release, it's got like all the DLC, all the content that released prior, because this was a timed exclusive on Xbox. And I actually got to review this one ahead of release, which was quite a treat for sure. But yeah, this is just one gorgeous, fantastic game. I think it's absolutely perfect in terms of the scale, the style, the puzzles, the design of it, the cinematic elements, the character movement, and everything like that. It's just absolutely fascinating and really well done. There's also great snow deformation and everything like that you're going to see in a sec here, because this was also one of the first times where I was really truly amazed by cutscene to gameplay. Noticing how there's absolutely no difference there, which is kind of wild. And again, great snow deformation. That's kind of fascinating. I mean, it's probably not as fancy as we see nowadays, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. So we go over to options here for the visuals. We've got 4K, again, the different options being noted right there. So we're going to switch to the high frame rate so you can kind of see that in action. Again, the fluidity just like picks right up, you know, everything feels a lot more lifelike. So this might be a really good option if you're wanting that higher level of fluidity. Personally, when I'm playing a Tomb Raider game, you know, they're a lot more cinematic, they're a lot more, they call for a higher resolution, so that's how I play it, but of course that's totally up to you. And then if for whatever reason, if you want to go to enriched visuals, you can get like a, you know, a better, sharper looking environment in terms of like textures and stuff like that. But you know, I really do kind of feel that the 4K resolution is kind of the way to go. It just seems to really give the best option for this one, in my opinion. But you know, you can do 60 FPS, you can have that fluidity if you want. Totally up to you. So we're going to play a bit like this, then we're going to show off different kind of resolutions running. And this is just the beginning of the game, just the opening segment, because it is simply stunning visually. It's quite gorgeous, and it's a good setup for the kind of the action and the character, and it gets you right into the scope of this experience, which again is just really great. So aside from, you know, kind of being the complete game, you know, you get the DLC. Baba Yaga is kind of fun. The expeditions and stuff, some neat things. I do highly suggest doing, like, I think it's called the Blood Ties, and it's kind of like dives into her like kind of family home, and I think that one's a really important kind of part of her experience in order to understand the character a lot better. So I do feel that that one is important if you are going to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider afterwards. And as always, I do suggest starting from the very first Tomb Raider game and making your way through the series in order to fully understand the scope of her journey. But you could perfectly dive into here and kind of, I guess, get a grasp of what she's doing and understand her character fine. And yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. It's just something I suggest when we're looking at this gameplay wise. So I think this, ooh, yeah, I always do that. Gonna have her looking over to the side here. We're gonna swap over to show off the 60 FPS so you can see that in action. And no, I do not play regularly gameplay-wise swapping between options. It's just to show you the different settings in action so that you can see what they're like. But yeah, that fluidity is really nice. And I think, you know, if we were to get some kind of upgrade to this, and I was mentioning it in my Shadow of the Tomb Raider video, I think eventually we'll get some sort of packaged release of these games together or something like that. And we'll get like a pure 4K 60. I don't think would be out of the question. We should have enough overhead now. But yeah, that extra fluidity is just kind of nuts when you're kind of doing traversal. It really adds sort of extra fine-tuned, I guess, visual touch to the game that you know, you don't necessarily get at the 4K 30. So that's something to keep in mind. It just like everything feels a lot more lifelike at at the 60 FPS marker, right?
I know this is a long shot, but that old tracker said he's
But
got
again,
one
this
of
isn't
them.
one of those ones where you're necessarily competing, so it's kind of like, you know, swapping over to the 4K for me isn't a huge negative, but then the enriched visuals. See, yeah, I don't quite necessarily get the enriched visuals, if you get what I mean. Like, it's just, it seems like quite a drop, and you don't really necessarily get anything too wild. I guess if you're in more of the jungle situation, like where it's more forest-like, you get a little bit out of it, but I don't know, I think on PlayStation you're best going with the 4K 30 or the 60
Should be
FPS
enough
option.
time. We're almost to the top.
What a stunning location, am I right here? Wow. This would be amazing to see in real life. It'd be just absolutely crazy, right? Like, look at that, the drop. And games can just absolutely nail frozen mountain ranges. I think they've absolutely perfected that. This is crazy.
We're close to something, Jonah. I can feel it. Just as
I was also really impressed with the facial animations and like the acting and stuff like this back when this released. I thought it was just absolutely amazing. And I think it still holds up quite well today. Things are about to get a little dangerous.
Okay.
Which means it's a good time to switch over again to 60 FPS. And I hope this isn't too annoying. I'm mostly just trying to the best of my ability, show off all of the different, you know, options. It almost looks a little jaggedy around some of the edges of her like coat and that, doing the 1080p. Oh, you can see it sends both of them down. That's hilarious. I've never seen that before, where they actually both fall here. That's really funny. Kind of cool to see in action. Anyways, let's try to actually hit the mark there. There we go. I can't believe I botched that the first time. This looks amazing. I guess I played this when it first released in what would have been like, what, 1080 or something like that on the base Xbox One, I think. This game was such a stunning title. Super, super cool. It's just like, it's such a fantastic effort from Square on this one. I think it's, you know, definitely worth checking out if you've never played it before. It's such a cool like set of adventures and places you go, and you know, the combat and the action, everything like that, and the puzzles. It just seems very well done. Okay, where are you going, Lara? There we go. Climbing around. I also think it adds a lot to her character too after the events of the first game. Just very interesting. Uh-oh. That's not good. Ugh. Very cool. Always trying to hone Lara in, but she just does not care. Just crazy, like the visuals here. Like, look at that. That's just nuts, right? And it's just all running all smoothly. Oh! Yeah, I'm dropping the ball on this one. Usually I'm just so intuitive on here, but it also does show off the loading being kind of fast there, right? Okay. There we go. Climb. And she's over the peak, which means it's a good time to really crank up. So you look at the difference in the backdrop there, the kind of icicle changes. Becomes a little bit more dynamic, I guess, at the enriched. But it's cool that you can just swap between them, right? Oh, that's the prize jewel.
We made it. I see the ruins.
How did he catch up so fast?
Oh God.
Well, this isn't good. Concussion.
Lara, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull you back up.
There. Over there. Quick.
Swing.
Other side.
Okay, here goes.
Got to swing like we mean it. That's what I'm doing. I'm swinging. Although that little snow spot there might be good to get to. Come on, let's go back and forth. I don't know, it's just kind of a treat, like, showcasing the Tomb Raider games, because I like them so much. So it's kind of just really cool to be back here and just, like, you know, presenting the different options. Oh, that's not good. Good thing that ice that he's on is super sturdy. I don't know, it's just kind of a really cool cinematic setup. I just remember being so blown away when I first jumped into this part. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Yeah, it was... Yeah, it's been a long time, actually, you know, this series and stuff, seeing it all released, playing all of the games. It's kind of been nuts. That's not good.
Go back, Jonah! Get to shelter!
Action set piece. Got to keep climbing. See, this would be wild at 60 FPS, obviously. I don't know, I just think it's a really well done experience. The game holds up quite well visually. It's still a treat. Obviously, I'd really like to see an upgrade here visually, but at the same time, I think what we have is nice. You know, you get all of the content here for what this experience is, which, again, is an absolute treat. Oh, wow, that would absolutely hurt like crazy. Oh, it's just like the water sequences in the first game, right? Oh, if you remember those. It's kind of crazy. Good release, though. Good version of the game. Ooh. Definitely hit the mark in so many different ways, adding to what is, you know, a really great first game, and then obviously everything gets capped off with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Yeah, they just absolutely nailed this franchise, at least in my opinion. I love this trilogy of games so much. It's just really, really well done set of games. Great single-player adventure, too. This is just one insane sequence, but yeah, that's Shadow of the Tomb Raider on PlayStation 5. I hope you got an idea of, you know, how it's running, how it's looking, the different visual options, and this is a good cutting point.